Welcome. This is our first session of Made Here from the Springfield-Greene County Library. This is a new program that is designed to feature businesses and entrepreneurs that make their products right here in Greene County. And our featured business today is Crackerjack Shack, and we have with us owner Sandy Higgins. Hi, Sandy.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's been a busy morning already at the shack.
Yes, I can relate. So we are going to start off our program with a tour that Sandy recorded earlier. So we'll show a video of that tour of her facility. I know I definitely wish we could be there in person and watching it. So hopefully that will be right. It's a little more fun that way, but this is fun too. This program was sort of inspired by well, my nosiness, let's say. There are so many cool things going on here in Southwest Missouri and being made here that I think many of us don't even know about, and getting a chance to kind of go behind the scenes is just super fun to me. So I hope you all enjoy Sandy's tour, and then we'll follow that up with some Q&A with Sandy. So let me go ahead and pull up that video tour.
Hi there, I'm Sandy Higgins, and I'm excited today to give you a shop tour of the Crackerjack Shack. I'm in our showroom, and this is the first place that you would come if you wanted to place a custom order for caps or for t-shirts. We do in-house screen printing and embroidery. We also do promotional products, but we work with trusted vendors for mugs and notepads and pins and banners and signs and things like that. But this is the first place that you would probably stop if you were a client and came in and needed some custom apparel. And I'm going to take you all the way through the process today. And I stress the word process because there are a lot of shops that really don't run really according to any kind of a process. In fact, I was talking with someone just this last week, and we're pretty systematized here at the Crackerjack Shack. And everything we do follows a pretty set and standard process so that you get a very predictable experience and a predictable high quality product. But I was talking with someone else, and they were like, well, our salespeople just take hand tickets and then they just dump them in the box. And the problem with that is that you never know on any given day if you're going to have 20 orders or 50 orders or 100 orders, and it means that you're going to have trouble meeting deadlines, and or you're going to be underbooked and your staff is going to be short on hours. So we run a very smooth, systematic shop, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we move through the shop. So this is our showroom. We have lots of things on display for you to look at when you come in. The first thing that you're going to do is meet with a member of our sales staff, and that can be done either by phone, it can be done in person, by email, or you can request a quote on our website. And we are going to offer lots of ideas and help you navigate the custom apparel landscape. A lot of people don't realize that art especially is done through the sales process. It is really not done in the art department. So our salespeople are very skilled at customer service, as well as skilled at helping you determine what it is you need for your project and what it is going to take to give you a very high quality end result. So this is Christina, and she is in our customer service department in sales. She is very friendly. And Christina, you want to tell a little bit about working at the Shack?
Well, I worked here a long time ago, and I just came back because there's really no other place that you would want to be besides working at the Shack.
Of course.
And it's just a really awesome family environment, and it's just a really awesome place to work.
It is actually. We pride ourselves on being very employee friendly and as well as client friendly. And our philosophy here is that if you take great care of your employees will take great care of your clients. So Christina is a good testament to that. She has a deep, good, authentic love for people, and she is one of the people that you would talk to whenever you place your order. He is gone today, but he is our lead artist, and this is his office. This is our film output printer, and then you can see all of his doodles up on his wall, so to see that he is extraordinarily talented. We are very fortunate to have him as our lead artist. He is talented both with hand drawing as well as graphic arts, and comes to us with a pretty broad portfolio of the things that that he can do. This is Colton, and he's in our accounting department. Colton, you want to talk a little bit about the shack?
It's a great place to be. It's fun. I don't dread coming to work every day, so that's good.
You don't dread coming to work. That's awesome. That's good to hear. This is great enthusiasm coming from the accounting department. Colton does an excellent job, and he's been assisting us in customer service, so we're really appreciative of all the work he does. So if you've been a client of ours and you've gotten invoicing both for our online orders as well as our in-house bulk orders, you're going to probably talk to Colton at some point. He also does all of our purchasing and works with all of our vendors, so yay, you do a good job. So this is the real boss. This is my mother. She comes in once a week and helps us reconcile our credit card statements as well as our vendor payments, and we all know she's the real boss of the place. We are really tickled to have. Are you going to say something? I'm afraid of what you'll say. It's a great place to work, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I enjoy coming in here.
Okay, well, that's good.
I look forward to it every week.
That is awesome. And then there's little Peanut over there in his crate. He's taking a nap. So we're going to stall out a little bit right here at Garrick's table. Garrick, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about the art process, and then we're going to talk a little bit about film positives and the screen printing process. Once a customer has approved their artwork through our automated system, then we go to film. So tell them a little bit about that process. This is Garrick Hayes, our production manager.
Hi. Yes, the art process, Jesse does a really great job with all of our art. Once art is approved, work orders are printed, and I actually do the scheduling.
We're going to take a quick look at that schedule. I'm going to just walk around here. If you can pull that up real quick. So put us on a past week, like a few weeks ago. So you can see these color-coded bands. This is a calendar that we use to schedule all of our print jobs. When I was mentioning earlier that a lot of shops don't use a regimented schedule, this is how we stay on track, and we use the color coding to let us know when garments have arrived, when screens have been burned, things like that.
Correct.
And Garrick manages all of that.
And trying to juggle everything to get it done on a certain date, that's what I enjoy doing. Yes, once everything's approved and the order's been put in my desk, then we request film output, which Jesse's in charge of outputting film. Then we have somebody proofread the film, so it's checked again, and then it goes to the darkroom to where we actually burn and make our screens that go on the press. And we have another checklist for darkroom check-in to make sure.
Show us that checklist on the worker. So this is one thing that's really sets us apart as well. So on every internal work order that we have, see all those color-coded bars that are on that work order. Those are actual checkpoints that employees use to make sure that the work order instructions match the screens that they're using or the embroidery sticks at every stage. So they are double checking all of the work and all of the instructions at film, in the darkroom, at printing, at embroidery, the final check. Our garments get counted about 6 times, different times at different stages, and the artwork and all the instructions get checked about 6 different times before it goes out. And all of those checks have to be done by a completely different employee to make sure that we check and cross-reference and double check.
Every time, yes.
Every time.
It lends itself to catching mistakes before they get out the door, which we pride ourselves on not having very many of those.
We do. Our attrition rate, just so if you're curious about that, is less than 1%. The industry standard is 3% mistakes, and we have consistently for 13 years maintained lower than 1% mistakes,
Yes,
spoilage. So a lot of that is attributed to Garrick and him keeping a really good handle on this. So
try to catch them when we can. Yes, it's.
That's right. So tell us about, we'll use Star D. This is a job we're getting ready to produce. So this film is on the counter ready for approval. So this is a proof that the customer or the client has approved. And we send this electronically to the client, say, okay, take a look at it. These are all the shirts that we're going to be printing with the design that this client has approved. And then all of the colors then are separated. Garrick, you can kind of take this from here. You're the technical guy.
Yeah, every color that you see on the proof requires a separate screen to go on the press. So we'll have a one color sleeve. This one will actually work both for long sleeve, and then we can cover this part up and use it for the short sleeve. The back is, on this job, is a two-color job where we will have the light green.
Oh yeah.
And then the dark green, which will go on last, and everything will line up on the press, and it'll make it look just like it does on the proof. And then the front left chest on this job is a one-color job, and that will be burned in the front left chest position and lined up on the press according to where it's supposed to go.
Correct. So then we double check all of this with the proof, and then as well as the work order. When when we lay the work order up there, we double check. We check for spelling. We check for good film quality, as well as the colors and instructions on the proof to make sure that everything is as it should be.
That is it.
All right. Thank you, Garrick.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna go into the dark room.
Okay.
So you're gonna notice a definite change in the lighting when we go into the dark room. We do have UV blocking light in here to preserve the emulsion on our screen. So I'll let Garrick tell you a little bit more about that.
Okay, darkroom, this is probably the most important part of the whole operation, because if the artwork is incorrect and the screens are incorrect, that means the final product would be incorrect. So that's why we take all this time to proof and double check and read and make sure everything is correct. The screens that we use, you can kind of think of kind of like a screen door. You can see through it. Right now, this is a reclaimed screen that's waiting to be coated with a photosensitive photopolymer emulsion.
You might pull one off the rack there.
After they're coated,
There you go. You can see that it has this.
With an emulsion.
It's actually red. It's hard to tell in this lighting,
Yeah.
but we have a red emulsion on there.
which will allow us to burn the image that will be used to print the job.
Right, let's take a look at the film over here.
All right.
So this is very similar film to what we were just showing you on that was waiting to be approved. So this film has been approved already that we're working with. Got a little bit of a glare there, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's okay.
This one, actually, for the City Republic, we're utilizing our screens with the back print and the front left chest print, all being burned on the same set of screens to save time and money. These different films, when they are laid out,
Notice how that's separated and you've only got the single color on that's representative on this film. So the design has been broken apart, so to speak.
Yep, on the pin registration system to where everything lines up.
Okay,
Is
I'll
all
pull
this
back
part-
and let them watch you do that.
This part is done manually, and I'll just show you a couple of the colors. So when I put these back onto the pins and reline them up, all the register marks line up just like they should. So we will transfer.
By register marks, that's these markings on the film. This is how we know when we go to the press that the colors align perfectly. If you've ever bought a commercial shirt, like at one of the retail stores, let's say at the mall, and let's say it's a black shirt and it's got red print on it, but you see this white peeking out from around the edges of that, that's what we call bad registration, and we are super picky about that here. We want to make sure that we get exceptional registration and that red looks like red and you don't see any of that white peeking out, that we get perfect registration at the press.
So after we take the time and take the separated film, tape it down to the carrier sheet in registration, then it transfers from there over to the exposure unit.
This is our new exposure unit. We're super excited about it. It's LED and top of the line technology.
Yes, this helps improve the quality of our screens, one, by getting a correct burn, which we do anyway, but it achieves that in a lot less time than we were used to.
Yes.
Typical screen in here now burns for no more than 10 seconds, which we were burning every screen for at least 2 minutes prior to this.
Yeah.
So that helps improve a lot. The registration system transfers from the table over to the exposure unit. Once we get ready to expose the job, again, this film will lay on top of here, and then we will put a screen of the correct mesh on there.
And the correct mesh is chosen by the artist, and that there's a whole learning curve to figuring all out what mesh goes with what type of design. You can see that Garrick just fits that right down over that now that we've got it already got it and it registered at the table.
And yes, this tri-lock system that is on here has 3 points of registration that coincide with the registration of the film. Once the screen is exposed to the light, washed out and dried, taken out to production, taped, and put on the machine for production, we have these same 3 points of registration on the machine to transfer the registration process from the darkroom to the press, which eliminates a lot of time of setting the job up on the press.
Well, and trying to register manually without these helpful tools to register in the darkroom. And Garrick started this conversation by saying that what happens in the darkroom really is the hub of the screen printing shop, is that doing a lot of this work ahead of time before we get to the press so that it makes the press setup go smooth.
And that's where we make our money, is when the press is going around. So
that's right.
We want it to
That's
go
where
around
we pay
more
those
than
salaries.
setting it up. That's right.
That's right.
So yeah, once the screen is put in here, put that across to create a vacuum, and then we will pick the correct program for recall, and then we will hit start, and it will vacuum down.
Yeah, we're not going to expose this screen probably.
One, but it'll actually vacuum down.
But you can see how the power of that vacuum, it's going to squeeze down on that screen. And the reason we do that is so that we don't get any movement at all. That once that is vacuumed down to the table, then we can expose it with light and what we call burn that image into the screen. And then once that's done, we take that screen into, I'll turn the light on in here, into our washout room in here. It looks dirty, but it's really called our clean wash. Screen printing is a dirty business. And we'll wash all of that out, and then we have a regular screen that we're ready to use at the press. So our next step is to go to the press and see what we've got ready to print today.
There we go.
So this is Danielle. She's one of the printers in our print shop, and these screens actually match the film that we just saw in the darkroom. She's getting ready to tape all these up. This is a screen that has been taped, and the reason we tape them is so the ink doesn't seep down into the corners of the screen as we're printing. So Danielle, tell us a little bit about setting up the press and what goes into creating a good quality print at the press.
Well, everything has to be tri-locked in, and what that means is that I use this right here, and it goes on the press. Every screen has to be locked in. If you don't lock it in properly, everything's not going to line up.
That's right. And we're talking multicolor.
Yes.
When we talk about quote-unquote lining up, that's
right.
The registration process. And again, we don't want, like with underbases and with colors that line up. On this design, you might see, like right in this area right here, there's a vine that comes through this letter R, and it has little leaves that come out here. Well, that has to align perfectly at the press, and maybe the next screen will show that. There it is. So this little vine right there has to line up exactly perfectly inside this R right here, and it takes some skill to do that.
Right. And look, and on the screen you can also see where it has registration marks. Right here, that's what I use to line up the screen.
Correct.
The press.
Yes.
Without that, I don't know what I would do.
You'd be out here for hours trying to get that to line up perfectly.
Right now, we have a one color popped into the press.
This is a job we're doing, if I'm not mistaken, for Joplin Stockyards,
yes.
Joplin Regional Stockyards, that's correct. They have a design that is a flag, looks like it has their logo or trademark steerhead on there. Oh yeah, here it is printed. So this is the print that came out of that screen right there.
And now to get a good quality print, I wish I had a shirt to show you guys, but if it's not a good quality print, that means that you're not getting good coverage whenever this squeegee is clearing the screen and you don't have enough pressure, which means it's not getting good coverage, and it will give defibrillation on a shirt. And what that means is that this will not feel smooth. It'll feel nasty.
That's right. Kind of feels like orange peel. You hear that talked about in screen printing a lot. And if you've ever gotten, you know, quote unquote bad screen printing, you're going to know what that feeling is. It has this rough texture to it. And
it feels like cardboard.
Yes, it should not feel like that. And especially white ink is the most difficult color to print and get right. And it should, you're exactly right. This should have a nice smooth feel and texture under your hand. So at the press, this job is not, we're tearing this job down, getting ready to set up the next one. But these flood bars and squeegees will move according to how she programs the press, and they will move to coat the screen and then to what we call scraping or stroking the screen, and it will scrape that ink off down to the other side. And we want to get a good smooth flood of the ink, and then we want to get a good smooth stroke in laying that ink down. Ideally, the ink should lay on top of the shirt and not be buried and pounded down into that fabric.
So for example, this means, will you show me?
Oh yeah.
This means that there's too much pressure on the screen.
So when the image is down on the palette, then we know we've got too much pressure. That should not happen.
Right.
Yeah, perfect. And it's a trick. I mean, it takes a lot of skill, because these lightweight shirts that everybody loves now, those 4-ounce, you know, Bella Canvas shirts, and some of those other lightweight, high fashion shirts, they do take some skill to print. So this is our auto press. We do have 2 other presses that are manual presses, and all of this then is controlled by hand and not by machine. This press will print up to 1,000 shirts an hour. So at top speed, we can print 1,400 shirts an hour if we have both manual presses and the auto press going at maximum capacity. So we are definitely what we would call a mid-tier print shop. So Danielle does a great job. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
So this is a job that we've actually completed yesterday. We did, I think, 1,000 masks for a local SMC manufacturing plant. And then we have an online store for Arvest Bank that we are in the process of packaging up and distributing to each of their local branches. So all of these orders came in online individually, and then we are packaging individually. You'll notice that we fold every shirt that goes out of our store. I think we're one of the only printers in the area that does that. And we print our receipts, and then we pack our orders according to how the customer would like that. So that's pretty much the end of the screen printing process. Let's look at embroidery. So this is Cheryl, and she runs our embroidery department. Cheryl and I actually taught school together many years ago. She is an outstanding employee. In fact, her nickname around here is Debbie Double Checker, because her error rate is next to 0. She just does a fantastic job. She is running a job, looks like right now, for OTC maybe, their allied health department, and she's programming the machine. This is a tandem embroidery machine. We'll get a good shot from all the way down. A tandem embroidery machine that she is programming to run, and it's fantastic. It's a fairly new machine. We're lucky to have it. Feel very fortunate. The brand name is Beridan, and Beridan is well known for being able to stitch very tiny text and tiny details very well. So we are really pretty excited about that. Okay, so Cheryl's getting ready to run this design. One thing about embroidery is, and as you can tell from the screen printing process as well, is that everything we do is very technical. Cheryl has to have a wide knowledge of fabrics. She has to know there are stabilizers that go with these fabrics. You have to know your knits from your wovens, and then you have to know your fabric weight. What does a fleece require? If it's a nubby fleece, that has a texture on the top of the fabric? Is that different from a regular fleece? The woven fabrics that have polyester linings. There are all kinds of different fabric scenarios that she has to know in order to be able to set this machine up correctly. Then we get to threading this bad boy. You can see there are times that whenever we do police badges, for example, we do a lot for law enforcement. So the police badges that we do can have as many as 30 to 40 color changes. So it's a very technical endeavor back here, and you have to have somebody with a lot of experience in order to get that really good stitch out. We're going to watch the machine as it goes. Okay, so this is Billy, and he is here from Village Inn picking up his garment. So this is the end, and this is what we love, is whenever you pick it up. And what did you just tell me about your cap?
I love my cap. I love it.
Take a look at that. Looks awesome, and that's what we want to hear at customer pickup. Thank you, Billy.
You're welcome.
Wow, Sandy, I feel enlightened, and I feel like I was there in your shop just now. That was great.
That's pretty much every day at the Shack. The exciting thing for us, I think, is that we get to work on so many different things. You know, it's different every day. The requirements that we have, I mean, it really stretches us and helps us grow and challenges us each and every day with the projects that we have in front of us at any given time.
Wow. So just some basic questions about your business. Can you tell us exactly where you are located, your shop?
We are in Republic on Highway 60, but we're kind of tucked back a little bit behind the AT&T store and Classic Rock Coffee. So if you're coming in from Springfield, you just go west on Sunshine, and we're about 4 miles west of James River Freeway.
Okay, great. And how many employees do you have total?
We currently have 11 employees.
Okay, great. So as I was watching your tour, it occurred to me that you take pride in something that I think sets you apart maybe from your competitors, which seems to be quality and attention to detail. The folding and the lining up of the registers and all that. Why is that important to you? Why do you think it differentiates you from your competitors?
Well, you know, anytime you go into business for yourself, you have to decide what's important to you and what's going to set you apart from your competitors. And one of the traps that you can fall into, especially in this industry, is trying to play the price war. And we decided early on that it's a war you can't win. And there is always going to be somebody who is willing to beat you on price. In fact, literally, I'll tell you a little story about that. I was on delivery one time, and it was early in the business, literally 12 years ago probably. I was still working out of my house at that time, and I was on a delivery, and I walked in with a box of garments, and I delivered it to the customer, and there was a gentleman standing behind me, and as soon as I delivered and accepted payment for that job, the gentleman walked up to my client and said, "I don't know what she charged you, but I can undercut that by $2 a shirt."
Wow.
While I was standing there. And it was eye-opening, and it was educational for me, because it doesn't matter what that price is, you know, it's difficult to compete on price. So you have to decide how you're going to compete in the industry. And I've always been a little bit of a recovering perfectionist anyway. So the pursuit of excellence is just really part of who I am anyway. And I like to surround myself with people who also have that just as a part of who they are. But over the 13 years we've been in business, that's really what we've become known for, is great, friendly customer service, relationship building with our clients. It is such a compliment to our business that we have clients who call us who literally just say, Sandy, just make it look good. That we've worked with them so long that they don't even really give us a lot of direction anymore. They have that much trust in us with their brand that they know at the end of the project, it's just going to look fantastic because we have such a process in place to make sure that their garments look good. And the other thing is that, I give credit to our staff. We've won 3 international screen printing awards for this business. And when I say international, I really mean that. We're up against competition from Japan and from Istanbul and from India and, all over the world, literally. We've taken 2 third-place prizes and a first-place prize for our printing. And we take a lot of pride in that. Our entire staff does. So, when you set yourself apart, you got to decide where your values are. And we value our client relationships and providing excellent service and excellent quality.
Yeah. So let's step back in time a little bit.
Okay.
What inspired you to start this business? And can you kind of tell us the story behind how you got where you are today?
Well, this is an interesting story, and I get asked this all the time. I was a school teacher. I went to college and became a high school English teacher. And about 10 years into that career, my husband and I had the opportunity to adopt our daughter. And at that time, I decided to become a stay-at-home mom. So I put my career on hold for a little bit, and I became a stay-at-home mom. When my daughter turned about 6 years old, she crossed over from what I call the cute little baby department to the rock and roll, edgy clothing in the retail stores. And I thought, I am not ready to turn my daughter at 6 years old over to teenage wear. So I started making her clothes. And everywhere we would go, people would be like, this was when the boutique industry, it's really big now, but it was when it was really first starting. So people would ask me all the time, where did you get that? And can you make that for me? And I thought, well, maybe I could make a little bit of money and extra money, for our family by doing this. And that's kind of how it got started. Well, then I joined an online group, and that was when it really took off. There was a group of boutique sewers that I joined, and I started developing a following on the East Coast and the West Coast with the work that I was producing. But what I learned really quickly about that is that I had a unique talent, and you can't teach talent. I can teach people how to use these machines and and the process of what we do and that kind of thing, but I could not teach them what was going on really inside my head. So I went to Kansas City. I remember this distinctly. I went to Kansas City to a quilting show of all things. And I would always go to these sewing expos so that I could learn new sewing techniques that would make my sewing faster. And I met a lady while I was there, and she said, have you ever thought about doing logo wear? Because she was kind of stuck in the same way that I was. And I thought, no, but that's a great idea. So I literally went back to my hotel room that night, and I knew how to turn a logo into a digitized embroidered logo. And I literally took the notepad from the desk and I started writing down, all the businesses in Springfield that I thought, okay, I know this business and I know this business. And when I got home, I digitized all those logos. I went to Dollar General. This is legit. I went to Dollar General and I bought little fingertip towels and I stitched out all those logos. This is so crafty, but I rolled them all up in little rolls and I put a little ribbon on it. And I stuck my business card underneath it and I put them in a basket and I set out. And I went to every one of those businesses and I said, hi, my name's Sandy Higgins and this is what I can do for you. And I offered to make them shirts. And honestly, they were so frustrated with the people they were working with already and the lack of great service that they were getting. I sold out the first day. And that's when I knew I was onto something. And honestly, within 6 months, logo wear was all we were doing. And we've continued ever since.
Wow. Is there anything on that journey that you maybe would have done differently in hindsight? Or
honestly, the only thing that I think I would have done differently, I was very reluctant to open a brick and mortar store. I was very happy working from home, and the only reason I opened a brick and mortar store was because I couldn't fit that big tandem machine in my house, and I thought, I'm going to have to do something in order to expand. And had I been able to fit that machine in my house, I might still be working. Well, I doubt it, but I might still be working at my house. But opening that brick and mortar store was really, the business really entered momentum growth at that point. And had I known that was going to happen, I probably would have done that sooner. But other than that, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. Where did you start out with your brick and mortar store? You didn't start out in Republic, did you?
I did not. I actually started in Ash Grove. We live close to Ash Grove, so it was a logical place to be close to home. And we've always done so much of our business online and by email that really the location wasn't as important. You know, we deliver to a lot of our top tier clients, and we ship all over the world. So the location, being close to home, being close to my daughter, was really important to me. We used to have a little break room set up where all of our kids came over after school and they just hung out, you know, at the shop. So it's worked out really, really well. But we eventually had expanded and owned 2 stores. We had a satellite location in Springfield, and we were set to franchise. And, you know, a lot of people go, why did you close that store? You know, it was so convenient. But my mother was in a catastrophic car accident back in 2015, and I needed to care for my mom. And that's when we consolidated, brought everything back to Republic, and it's worked out great. Like I said, we ship all over the world and we deliver to our top tier clients, so it's worked out really well.
That's great. I have a question from the chat. How often do your machines break down, and who does the repairs? And also, does your daughter work with you?
That's a great question. Both those questions are great. So it's machinery. So yes, they break down. It is great to have people on staff, first of all, who are kind of mechanically inclined. I do a lot of or have in the past done a lot of repairs on our embroidery machines. But Garrick, our production manager, he has about 30 years experience in screen printing and embroidery, and just in apparel and decorated apparel in general. So he is fantastic when it comes to logistics of what goes on here, but also working with, I can't stress this enough, if you're ever thinking about going into a business like this, the support that you get from your manufacturers, your machine manufacturers, is almost as important as the machine itself. We use M&R equipment here. Garrick has a long, very long, decades-long relationship with that manufacturer, and we've had batteries go out, you know, critical batteries that we need to operate the machinery, or we get stumped and we can't figure something out. Being able to call that tech support and get support right then. And we have great relationships with our sales reps for those manufacturers. So that's very, very important, because it does break down. Now, in regard to my daughter, she has worked here at the shop since she was probably about 10 years old. I am a hardcore mom and a hardcore employer. So she did not start at the top by any means. One of the things I didn't show in the tour that I usually do is our reclaim room. So reclaim is the messiest, we call it the armpit of the store. But it's the messiest spot in the store, and but we're very green here. So we have a big filtration system, and we make sure that we send clean water back into the system. But she reclaimed screens from the time she was about 12 years old up until she was about 16 or 17 years old. And then this summer, she came back and worked customer service with me all summer long. She's a fantastic employee. Many of you may have been able to speak with her on the phone this summer, but she's in college, so she's gone back to school now. But she's an integral part of what goes on here, and she knows the business well.
Another great question from Teresa. How did you get the name of your company?
That's a great question too. There's two parts to that story. One is from my daughter. We kind of kicked around the nickname for her when she was little as our little Crackerjack. And when I was doing boutique wear, we had this cute little treehouse logo, and our logo was totally different than what it is now. But we had this cute little treehouse logo, and the Crackerjack Shack just stuck. And you know, it's interesting, our name. The word Crackerjack means exceptionally good. A lot of people don't know that, but it really does. We've thought about changing our name 3 different times, and I have a business mentor that I work pretty closely with. He is from the local SBA SCORE office, and I highly recommend you getting a business mentor if you're thinking about going into business. But there are a couple of times that I'm like, John, I really, you know, because I keep thinking kids and children's wear. I mean, that's where my roots are. And I said, John, I really think we ought to change this name, you know, and make it more like what we're doing now. And he goes, don't you touch that name. Don't touch that name. So, and of course, once you have a website and all of our email addresses, and you have this footprint that you develop. So choosing a name is very important, but we love it. It's catchy, and we get lots of compliments on it. So.
Okay, great. I understand that your industry is kind of a male-dominated industry. What challenges, can you talk about challenges you might have faced as a result of that?
Well, the biggest challenge really is localized. You know, when I go to national events and trade shows and things like that, there I find other women who are in the CEO chair. But it is astonishing to me that in 2020, I still have male sales people, you know, who sell inks, or they sell office supplies, or they sell whatever, who will come in and speak directly to me and ask, you know, is your husband available? And sometimes when my husband is here, I'll say, sure, let me go get him. And then he'll come to the front. We have this game we play, and he'll come to the front, and then they'll say, you know, he doesn't have a clue what goes on here. And he'll say, I don't know, just a minute, let me go get my wife. And then he'll come back and get me, and then I'll come up. And then, of course, you know, they're like, oh, that was a misstep there, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. But it is interesting to me. And, you know, honestly, I ask, even in interviews, whenever I interview potential employees, if they are comfortable working for a woman CEO, because it is unusual in our industry. When we hit close to the $1 million mark in our annual sales back in 2016, we ranked, there was an article that came out in Forbes magazine about our company, and we rank in the top 1% of women-owned companies in our industry, in our industry, and then 2%, in the top 2% of women-owned businesses globally. Wow. And what that tells me is a great compliment to the business, but it tells us how far we have to go for girls in business. So I am always about empowering women and empowering girls, that if they are interested in pursuing something, who cares if it's male dominated? Go, let's do it.
So we got to meet your team in the tour, and you've talked a bit about your team. How would you describe your team and sort of your culture, your workplace culture? And do you have any tips for other businesses about finding team members that sort of reflect your values? We talked about the importance of your values as a business.
Well, one thing I think that's really important is that you need to know who you are, and you need to know what you value, because I think a lot of people don't really know, or they're so focused on the bottom line that they don't think of their charity work. And, you know, I'm very charity minded. We donate hundreds of thousands of dollars a year back to local charities through fundraising and various efforts. But it's important to me to find people who are on board with what I value personally and what I value for the business, and that culture fits. One of the neatest things I think about my current staff, and, you know, I call them the golden staff. You know, I've had various staffs over, you know, 13 years. People go different directions in their lives, and but one of the neatest things about my golden staff I have right now is their ability to problem solve together. You know, not everything goes right, and as much as we try, and as many checkpoints as we have, and, you know, as much as we try to make everything go smoothly, it just doesn't. I mean, that's life, and things are going to go wrong. We're working with humans. They're going to make mistakes, and things are going to happen. But when I stand back and I watch my staff problem solve together. It's a beautiful thing. They're kind to one another. They consider the opinions of each other, and it's such a great place to work. I had a couple of employee evaluations this week, and one of the comments that one of my staffers made to me, who is he is what I would call a middle-aged man. I don't think he'll mind me saying that, but he said, you know, this is the first place that I have ever worked where I really feel appreciated. And you know, how sad is that, first of all, to be that age and not feel appreciated at your job, but it is really the staff that makes this whole thing work. You know, I can call myself a leader all day long, but if I look behind me and I don't have anybody following, what good is it? You know, they've got to be on board, and they're really the ones that make everything happen. So it's important to me that that I'm clear about expectations, but really they're the ones that take that ball and go. So I love coming to work every day. It's a place full of smiles and laughter, and we just have a great time at work.
Great. Another question from the chat. As a CEO, is there anything about the business that keeps you up at night?
Well, the business keeps me up at night. I'm going to tell you, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. It is, you know, it's a crazy ride. It really, really is. There are so many days that I'm here. I'm either working early morning at home, and then I'm here late at night myself. It never ends, and that's a good thing. But it does get tiring, and there are times that you think, why am I doing this? And then, you know, something will spark your creativity, or it will spark that engine again that is inside of you, and you just continue to do it because you just have the drive to do it. There are a lot of people that don't understand entrepreneurs. They just look at you like you're crazy, and we are in a way. We just are. But we have this internal go button that is difficult to turn off, and it's just part of who we are. Every business owner I know, every true entrepreneur that I know is like that. We love what we do, and that's what keeps us going to the next day and the next week and the next month and the next year. Yeah.
So how has this pandemic affected your business?
Oh my. Okay. I'm going to tell you, COVID is something else. It's a roller coaster every day, really, because we don't know what challenges are going to come about. But in January, we always have a big staff meeting in January, kind of look at the coming year and what things are going to be changing vendor-wise and everything. But there's always a big staff meeting in January. And honestly, election years just in general are bad for business. Most business owners will tell you that it doesn't matter who's in the White House and who's on the ballot. It's just election years are hard for business. Well, enter COVID to this whole thing. So in our staff meeting, I brought the staff together, and I just said, you know, this was early in February, mid-February. And I said, I don't know what is around the corner with this. So here's our choice. We have two choices. We are either going to lay over and die, or we are going to innovate. So as of right now, all of you are creative. You are all innovative. You all are, you know, going to other businesses. You're seeing what's out there. You're seeing how they're pivoting and using their business in a different way. I want your ideas. Well, let's collaborate. And, you know, if you're not okay with just laying over and dying from this, then we're going to innovate. And 100% everybody was like, we're innovating. We're going to make it through this. So that's exactly what we did. We kind of sat for a minute, and then finally somebody said, well, you know, over at this business, I saw them doing this. And, you know, I think one of the examples was a tire shop that somebody had seen where just as an added service, they would, you know, shine your tires when they replaced them. Well, then they started charging for that, you know, if that's all you wanted. If you just wanted to come in and have your you know, car spruced up a little bit and just have the tires shine. And what a great idea. So we had to think of what we were already doing, but do it in a little bit different way. And, you know, I feel so fortunate because of the staff's ability to stick together and pivot in this way. We were just looking at our numbers last week, and we are only $2,500 off of our numbers from last year. Honestly, I'm astonished because the early part of the year was so rough, and we just didn't know what was around the bend. But you know, we have really dug our heels in and figured out a way through, and we hope to go ahead and make it on through to the end of the year and then into next year with the same tenacity and the same innovativeness, so that we will still be standing when this thing is over.
Yeah. Where do you see your company in the future? Or is that something you can really project during a pandemic such as this?
You know, it's difficult because we will have to look back and kind of assess what, you know, we literally manufactured our own masks, for example. I remember talking about late nights. I remember my Cheryl, our embroidery tech, you know, we literally drew out on paper a way to manufacture masks at our embroidery machine when our embroidery machine was sitting idle. You know, when you compare, you know, next year to this year's numbers, it's going to be a while before we're really have solid numbers, you know, to see, are we on track? Are we on budget? Because this year has been so crazy, and the numbers that we put up this year, you know, next year is going to be honestly a total novel year again, because the numbers this year are not going to be reflected next year because we're not even going to be making the same products next year. The other thing is, usually our fall season is very predictable. You know, I know the trends over 13 years. I know what an October looks like. I know what a November looks like. This year, I mean, you really don't have any idea what is coming. So that's going to affect 2021. It's going to affect 2022 until this thing stabilizes and we get back on track again, if it does. The other thing is our clientele. You know, a lot of people think that screen printers only service teams in schools, and that's honestly very little of what we do. We are heavily involved with other businesses, you know, and we have to look at what other businesses survived this, you know, and where are they with their employee needs and their apparel needs, and how can we be a support to that business and service the needs that they still have if they're still standing. So there's a lot. This will play out for a few years to come before we really have solid trends again.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about marketing? What marketing tactics have been successful for you, and if that has changed over the last year or so?
Absolutely. So we honestly everything we do is digital. We are also one of the few shops that all of our client interaction is digital as well. All of our software, this is one thing I didn't talk about in the tour, but all of our software is in the cloud. So when we send a client their approval, they actually have access to their account. So as each employee logs into that client's job, they change the status of that job, and that is totally transparent to our clients. So we got rid of what I used to call the 2-week wait and worry period. So if you ever went into a screen printing shop and you ordered shirts, then you just sat around for 2 weeks and hope they got it right. Well, we have a way now where you log in and you see that. It's also part of our marketing strategy, because the images that you see on there, a lot of times we will ask for permission to display those on our Facebook pages and some of our social platforms and things of that nature. But the first 2 to 3 hours of my day, honestly, is spent on our social platforms. We are very active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, those 3 in particular, and researching what else is going on in the industry according to what's going on the socials. The other thing that we do is a lot of email marketing. We've found that to be very effective for us. In fact, I can almost trace our email marketing with the dollars that those generate. We have completely ended anything in print, radio advertising, that kind of thing. We just don't do it anymore. We don't see the returns that we do on digital marketing. So we have gone completely digital.
Wow. So that makes me wonder, who are your customers? You featured a lot of local customers in your tour there. Do you have customers primarily in the Southwest Missouri area or all over the nation, or who are your customers?
We are primarily a regional store. We do have some clients that we service. Actually, we call them contract clients. So we print on behalf of them. They're brokers. So we have a broker in the Dallas area. We have another broker who services the Branson Souvenir area, as well as Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg area. So in that regard, we stretch out nationally. We also have a local franchise that has a West Coast division, and we do most of the embroidery and screen printing for that company as well. But primarily we're focused in the region, in the Midwest region. So, but it is primarily business. We still do local schools and churches in organizations, you know, like that. But the majority of our business is other businesses.
Wow. So part of our Made Here program here is that the products are made right here in Southwest Missouri. And I can see that you have been around here a while, so that may be why you're here. But what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are thinking, oh, to make a go of this business, I'm going to have to move somewhere else?
Oh, absolutely not. In this day and time, like I said, everything we do, we literally could be probably located in a field somewhere in the middle of nowhere. As long as we have internet access, we're good. There are a few people who like to still come in and touch and feel things, but they are few and far between. So as far as opening up shop somewhere, I have a personal pride in manufacturing and actually making things. I love that. I'm kind of old school when it comes to that kind of thing. My dad was a longtime manufacturer, and I just have a deep love for making what we sell. But honestly, if you also have a love for that, you can still make what you sell and distribute on a broad scale and be located regionally or located in a local spot. We figured out a way to make that work, and I think honestly most businesses in this day and time have. If they haven't, I would encourage you to move that direction. But as far as starting a new business, the first thing that I would strongly recommend is getting a mentor. You know, one of the things that happens to entrepreneurs when they get really excited is they start telling everybody about their idea. And I always caution people with doing that, because entrepreneurs really are a very unique breed of people. The average person is not going to get it. So you're going to have all this excitement, and as soon as you share it with somebody, they're going to go, what? And then they're going to say, yeah, but what about this? And they're going to start all these things that telling you why it won't work, which in some ways is a good thing, because they're probably things you haven't thought about. But in other ways, it's not really constructive to what you're doing. So getting a mentor, a business mentor, somebody who really knows business. One of the things I have always loved about my mentor is that he owned a multi-million-dollar business in San Francisco. And even when I was working out of the spare bedroom of my house, he never treated me like I was little. Never, not one time. He always legitimized my business. And he was one of the only people really who did, besides my husband and my family. He was one of the only people who really, who did. And I would run ideas by him. And if it wasn't a good idea, it was done in such a professional way. And then he would help me, he'd guide me to a decision that was much better. So get a mentor for sure. It's somebody who knows business, the type of business you want to do, and stick with that person, because they've been there and they understand the challenges that you're going to face.
Yeah. And you all heard Sandy mentioned that her mentor is from SCORE.
Yes.
And SCORE is actually how I heard about Sandy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. SCORE is a library partner as well. And they offer business mentoring at no cost.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something you're interested in, please do reach out to me or to Sandy. I think either one of us could probably connect you with SCORE. We would love to. They're a great organization. They offer classes, webinars right now. And I'll tell you a little bit more about something else in a little bit, but I'm glad you mentioned SCORE.
One other thing I wanted to mention in relation to that, and I think you and I had talked just briefly about it, is a book that I would recommend to new entrepreneurs as well. And that is The E-Myth mastered. I'm sure it's available at the library. The author slips my mind right now, but even the audiobook, the author reads the book and he's very entertaining, and it's a great listen and a very good read. But that is really where we started systematizing the business. And really, if I had read that at the beginning phases of my business, I think that we would have grown a little bit better probably in the early phases. I didn't discover that book until about 2 or 3, 4 years in, but I would highly recommend that book.
Great. Love a good book recommendation. All right. Well, Sandy, we're just about out of time. I do want to share some extra things, but before I do that, is there anything else that you wanted to mention that we hadn't talked about yet?
I don't think so. We've covered so much. I sure appreciate the opportunity. I love our business. I love coming to work every day. And if anybody needs t-shirts, come and talk to us.
Yeah. Does anyone else, if you have any more questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat so we can get them to Sandy before we end here. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. Okay, so if you enjoyed today's program, I would love to hear from you. If you can suggest an entrepreneur, I know nobody will be quite as dynamic as Sandy, but for our future Made Here sessions, we're looking for folks that make a product of any kind right here in Greene County, who have a facility that would make for an interesting tour, virtual, or we hope to someday be in person again. And has an owner or a team member like Sandy, who's a dynamic public speaker and is passionate about educating others about their field. So if you know somebody like that, I would love for you to reach out to me. You can reach me by email at kdp@thelibrary.org, or you can call the Schweitzer-Brentwood branch of the Springfield-Greene County Library. Hold on.
Katie, while you're finding that, I might add too that I would be more than happy to field questions as well at crackerjackshack.com. is our website, and feel free, we have a comment section there and a contact us page.
Okay, and follow her on social media too. And I do want to give a plug for one thing, which is SCORE related. SCORE of Southwest Missouri has a virtual women's conference coming up on September 23rd and 24th. Normally at the library we don't promote things that are not free, but we are a partner in this conference, and it's a really great value. In the conference, you can connect and learn with some of Southwest Missouri's brightest entrepreneurs, leaders, business owners, and business resource organizations. We have a nationally recognized keynote speaker, Cynthia Williams, 25 other local presenters. There are networking opportunities. It's hard to get networking opportunities right now. Over lunch and a virtual happy hour, and that's $45 per person. You can get details and register online at e3score.org. And that is all we had today. I don't see anything else. So Sandy, thank you so much for doing this today. Thank you everyone for being here, and please visit thelibrary.org and watch for our next session coming up in the winter. Thanks everybody.
All right, thank you.